My mom demanded rent until I lost 20 pounds, the family drama that nearly broke us apart. What began as a simple financial deal quickly turned into an emotional battle, exposing cracks that nearly tore the family apart. Since graduating college, life has been a relentless grind, juggling a demanding full-time job, college classes, and the nerve-wracking task of applying to medical schools. But no matter how hard I worked, there was one burden heavier than any workload: the constant tension at home, especially the money I had to pay my mother every month. I'm 24 years old. After graduation, I moved back to my mom's house to save money and focus on my future. The deal was clear: I would pay her $500 a month for rent. It wasn't a huge amount, but with my low-paying job and endless expenses, every dollar counted. I understood that my mom needed financial support. I wanted to help, so I paid month after month, never missing a single payment. But the deeper truth was far more complicated. My older brother, who graduated a year earlier, lived with us too, and he paid no rent. None. He worked a few hours a day, took it easy, and somehow my mom let him live there rent-free. This unequal treatment stung more than I wanted to admit. Every time I thought about it, anger bubbled up inside me. How could I be paying $500 every month while my own brother got a free pass? I never voiced these feelings directly. I was scared of rocking the boat or making things worse. But inside, the unfairness burned like acid. I tried to focus on my own path, my grueling schedule, my ambitions. But my mom's favoritism towards him made everything harder to swallow. And then one day it got worse. One day my mom dropped a bombshell that shattered what little peace I had left. If I lost 20 pounds in 6 months, I wouldn't have to pay rent anymore. I froze. My mind reeled in disbelief. Was this a joke? Some twisted challenge? I was angry, no furious. How could she reduce my worth to my body weight? Sure, according to BMI, I was about 10 pounds overweight. Not obese, not unhealthy, just slightly above the ideal weight. But that didn't mean she could use it as a bargaining chip, like it was some punishment or gatekeeper for my independence. It was humiliating. It felt like a slap in the face, an insult wrapped in a deal. I was busting my ass every day, working a tough full-time job, taking classes, and pushing myself to get into med school. Yet here she was, telling me my rent was tied to how much weight I could lose. It wasn't just about money anymore. It was about respect, dignity, and how she saw me. I tried to reason with her. I told her that rent was about financial support, not a contest about my body. I reminded her that my brother works less and pays nothing, and that felt unfair. But she shut me down cold, accusing me of dragging my brother into it and being ungrateful. She refused to listen. That conversation left me hollow. I felt invisible, misunderstood, and hurt in ways words can barely capture. It wasn't just the unfair rent. It was the feeling that no matter what I did, it would never be enough. That I had to prove my worth by losing weight, as if my body defined me more than my hard work and dreams. I reached out to my friends, hoping to find some perspective. Most of them live with their families without paying rent, or at least without ridiculous conditions like mine. Hearing that made my isolation even worse. I was trapped in a situation where the one person who should have been my biggest supporter was treating me like a project or a problem to be fixed. Then things escalated. When I refused the weight loss deal, my mom demanded rent with an iron fist. I told her I wouldn't send a dime until she apologized for the cruel conditions she'd set. Since then, we haven't spoken for 2 weeks. Silence fills the house like a heavy fog, thick, suffocating, painful. Our relationship used to be close. She was my mom, my ally, my confidant. But now, the distance between us feels like a chasm carved by money, disappointment, and unmet expectations. Every day I feel that bond slipping away, replaced by bitterness and sadness. The money she wants feels like a weapon, something that's breaking us apart instead of bringing us together. I don't know what to do. I want my mom back, the mom who loved me no matter what, who cheered me on even when life was hard. But right now, it feels like she only sees a paycheck or a number on the scale. And that hurts worse than anything else. The days after our fallout felt heavier than I ever imagined possible. Each morning I woke up hoping the silence would break, that my mom would reach out, apologize, or at least acknowledge how wrong her ultimatum was. But no message came, no call, just an empty void where our once close relationship had lived. The weight of the rent argument wasn't just about money or even fairness anymore. It was the crushing pressure of impossible expectations laid bare. It was as if my mother had turned my body into a battleground, where love and acceptance were conditional, given only if I could fix myself by losing 20 pounds. And I felt cornered, attacked in a way that no daughter should ever be. I looked in the mirror countless times, scrutinizing every curve, every pound, wondering if I was really that different from who I wanted to be. Was my body really the reason my mom felt justified in punishing me? Why had my worth been reduced to a number on a scale? All the while, the unfairness of the situation burned in my mind. My brother, with his easy days and fewer responsibilities, didn't have to face this cruel challenge. He didn't pay rent, didn't struggle to make ends meet, didn't bear the constant pressure to perform in ways that mattered. Yet somehow, he was still favored. My mom's behavior felt less like a loving mother and more like a cold judge keeping score of every flaw and mistake. I thought back to the countless hours I'd worked juggling shifts at my job, studying for exams, filling out med school applications, hoping she saw the effort, the sacrifice, the resilience. But apparently none of that mattered. I felt lost, confused. Was I being unreasonable for expecting fairness? Was it selfish to want love without conditions? The walls of our home, which should have been a refuge, now felt like a cage closing in on me. The silence between us wasn't peaceful. It was a tense, aching absence that tore at my heart. I remembered the moments when my mom used to call me just to check in, or when we'd share a laugh over a silly TV show. Those moments felt like echoes from another life, a past that was slipping away with every passing day. Friends tried to comfort me. They told me to set boundaries, to stand my ground, and to protect my mental health. But standing firm came with its own price, guilt and loneliness. I didn't want to hurt my mom, but I also didn't want to lose myself in her demands. Sometimes I wondered if this was more than just a fight over money and weight. Maybe it was her own way of struggling. Maybe she was overwhelmed by her own fears, insecurities, or disappointments. But that didn't excuse the pain she was causing me. The house felt colder without her presence. I avoided common areas, afraid I'd run into her and the silence would crack into another fight. I kept myself busy, work classes, applications, anything to drown out the ache of our broken bond. At night, the weight of the day settled on my chest. I lay awake, replaying conversations in my mind, wishing I'd said something different, wished I could take back the hurtful words. I wished I could rewind time to when things were simple, when my mom's love felt unconditional, when money wasn't a wedge between us. I hated feeling this way. I hated that something as basic as paying rent had become a source of such pain. But worse than the money was the feeling of being unloved, unvalued, and unseen by the person who should have been my biggest supporter. I wanted answers. I wanted to fix this. But every time I thought about reaching out, fear stopped me. What if she refused to listen? What if she doubled down on the weight loss ultimatum? What if I lost the last thread of connection with her forever? I was stuck in a silent battle, fighting for my dignity, my independence, and my right to be loved for who I am, not how much I weigh or how much money I can give. Weeks slipped by like a heavy fog, thick with unspoken words and unresolved tension. The silence between my mom and me was a chasm that seemed to widen each day. I couldn't remember the last time we had a real conversation. Not just exchanges about chores or brief nods in the hallway, but something genuine, honest healing. The longer the quiet lasted, the heavier my heart grew. I found myself caught between two fierce storms, the relentless pressure from my mother's demands and my own crumbling hope that we could ever find our way back to what we once had. One afternoon, I came home from work exhausted, my mind swirling with worry about med school applications and the mounting rent I still had to pay. I was drained physically and emotionally. When I walked through the door, I overheard my mom talking on the phone, her voice sharp and bitter. I couldn't make out everything, but what caught my attention was the bitterness, the resentment in her words. I felt a pang of sadness mixed with anger. Was this really how she saw me? A financial burden to be squeezed until I fit her impossible conditions. That evening, I decided to confront her. Maybe it was time to stop tiptoeing around the issue, to finally put everything on the table. I wanted to know why this had become such a twisted game of ultimatums and silent punishments. Mom? I began, trying to keep my voice steady despite the storm inside me. Why are you doing this? Why does losing weight have anything to do with rent? I work full-time. I'm going to school. I'm trying my best. Doesn't any of that matter? She looked up. her eyes narrowing, lips pressed tight. "You don't understand," she said coldly. "This isn't about the money. It's about you taking care of yourself, about responsibility." I shook my head, disbelief flooding through me. "But this isn't responsibility, it's punishment. And it's not fair. You never asked my brother to do this. Why me? Why do I have to earn your approval like it's some kind of prize?" Her face flushed with anger. "Don't bring him into this," she snapped. "You think you have it worse? You don't know what it's like to live with him." That hit me like a slap. I swallowed the lump in my throat, but I knew this wasn't going to get easier. Our conversation spiraled into accusations and defensiveness, with neither of us hearing the other's pain. After she stormed off to her room, I sank to the couch, tears blurring my vision. The truth was, I did feel alone, not just in this fight, but in the whole world sometimes. I craved my mother's support, her understanding, but all I got was coldness and conditions. I started questioning everything. Was I wrong to want to be treated fairly? Was I selfish for needing love without strings attached? In the days that followed, I tried to distract myself with work and school, but the tension at home was like a dark cloud following me everywhere. I caught myself shrinking into silence, afraid to speak my mind, afraid to provoke another argument. I even thought about moving out, maybe anywhere but here would be better than living under a roof where love felt conditional. But with med school applications looming and money tight, I felt trapped. One night, curled up with my journal, I wrote down all the feelings I couldn't say aloud, the hurt, the anger, the desperate wish to be accepted as I am. Writing became my only outlet, a quiet rebellion against the weight of expectations crushing me. Then something shifted. A message popped up on my phone from my brother. He had noticed the distance between Mom and me, too. He told me he was sorry things were so hard and that he wished he could help. It was a small gesture, but it meant the world. For the first time in weeks, I felt less alone. That night, I dreamed of a future where I could stand strong, where my worth wasn't tied to a number on a scale or the rent I could pay. I dreamed of a day when my mom and I could heal the fractures in our relationship, but only if she could see me, really see me, without conditions. The battle wasn't over, but I was no longer willing to lose myself trying to win her approval. I was beginning to understand that sometimes love had to be fought for, and sometimes it had to be walked away from. The days that followed felt like walking on shattered glass, every step painful, every breath heavy. The silence between my mom and me no longer felt like a space for healing, but a battleground where resentment and disappointment festered. I tried to keep up with my responsibilities, my full-time job, the demanding college class and med school applications. But the emotional weight made even simple tasks feel monumental. Nights were the worst. When the house finally quieted, my mind churned with the hurt, the confusion, and the slow-burning anger that seemed impossible to extinguish. One evening, I decided to confront the financial issue again. I couldn't keep living in this limbo of unpaid rent with a ticking clock and my mother's cold ultimatum hanging over me. I found her in the kitchen, quietly cleaning dishes. The light was soft, casting shadows on her face that looked older, more worn than I remembered. "Mom," I started cautiously. "We need to talk about the rent." She didn't look up. "What about it? I can't keep paying when you've made it clear it's conditional on something unrelated." "Losing weight isn't a rent negotiation. It's my health, my body. It's not fair to use it as a bartering chip." She sighed heavily, finally meeting my eyes. "You don't get it. I'm trying to help you. You don't think I worry about your future, about your health? This is my way of motivating you." Her words stung, but more than that, they confused me. Motivation. This felt like manipulation disguised as concern. "Motivation doesn't come with threats, Mom," I said quietly. "It comes with love. And right now, I don't feel loved. I feel like I'm a project you're trying to fix instead of your daughter." Her face tightened. "Maybe you need fixing," she snapped. The words hit like a punch to the gut. I blinked back, tears, the hurt flooding through me. How had we gotten here? When had love turned into judgment? "I'm done," I whispered, turning away. "I'm done being someone you can bargain with." That night, I cried myself to sleep, feeling smaller and more broken than ever. In the following days, the rift between us deepened. I started spending more time at friends' houses, at the library, anywhere but home. My mom noticed, and her frustration grew. Arguments erupted over the smallest things, forgotten dishes, late dinners, my being too distant. One afternoon, I overheard her talking to a family friend on the phone. Her voice was sharp, filled with bitterness. "She's so ungrateful. I do everything for her, and this is how she repays me." I felt a wave of anger and sadness. Was this how she really saw me? As someone who owed her everything, I wanted to scream that I was trying, that I was struggling just as much. At the same time, I could see the toll this was taking on my younger brother. The way he flinched when Mom raised her voice, how his eyes would well up, but he'd quickly blink away tears. The house felt colder, darker, and I was powerless to fix it. One night, my brother confided in me quietly, "I don't like it when Mom gets like this. It feels like we're all walking on eggshells." His words broke my heart. We were all trapped in this toxic cycle, each of us hurting in different ways, but no one knowing how to escape. I realized then that this wasn't just about me or the rent. It was about a family fracturing under pressure, about wounds running too deep for words alone to heal. Desperation pushed me to reach out to a counselor, someone I could talk to without judgment. Sitting in that office, I finally let the floodgates open. I told the story, the rent, the weight ultimatum, the arguments, the distance, the pain. It was the first time I felt truly seen. The counselor didn't offer easy answers, but she gave me tools to set boundaries, to protect my mental health, and to start healing myself, even if my family couldn't yet heal with me. That night I made a decision. I couldn't control my mom's actions or feelings, but I could control how I responded. I could refuse to be broken by conditions that had nothing to do with love. I started writing a letter to my mom, not to send yet, but to organize my feelings. I poured everything onto the page, my hurt, my hopes, my needs. It was messy, raw, but it was mine. As I sealed the envelope without an address, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe one day I'd have the courage to give it to her. Maybe one day she'd understand that love isn't earned by meeting impossible conditions, it's given freely. Until then, I knew I had to fight for my own peace. After weeks of turmoil and silence, I reached a turning point. The tension at home had become unbearable, but deep inside I knew I couldn't let this conflict define me or my future. I had to find a way to reclaim my peace and rebuild the relationship on healthier terms, or if that wasn't possible, to protect myself enough to move forward. One morning I woke up feeling exhausted but determined. I realized that the fight over rent, weight, and control was not just about money or my body. It was about respect, love, and being seen as a whole person. I was tired of feeling like a problem to be solved. I decided to send the letter I had written to my mom. It was terrifying to put my heart on paper and risk rejection, but I needed her to understand what I was going through from my perspective. The letter was honest, raw, and full of vulnerability. I told her how much I loved her, but how much her ultimatum had hurt me. I explained that I wanted to be close again, but only if it was built on respect and understanding, not conditional love or punishment. For days I heard nothing. The silence was deafening and doubts crept in. Had I made a mistake? Was this the end of our relationship? Then one afternoon she finally called. Her voice was hesitant, softer than I had heard in weeks. "I read your letter," she said. I'm sorry. I didn't realize how much I was hurting you. I thought I was helping, but I see now that I was wrong. It wasn't a perfect apology, but it was a start. We talked honestly and carefully about our feelings, our fears, and how we could move forward. For the first time in a long time, it felt like we were on the same side. We agreed to take small steps to communicate more openly, to respect boundaries, and to rebuild trust slowly. At the same time, I began focusing more on my own well-being. I found a support group for people dealing with family conflict, and that community reminded me I wasn't alone. I kept seeing my counselor, learning how to manage anxiety and set healthy boundaries. My relationship with my brother also grew stronger. We leaned on each other more, sharing our frustrations and hopes. The house still had its difficult moments, but the tension was easing. Most importantly, I learned to separate my worth from the opinions or conditions imposed by others, especially those closest to me. Losing weight wasn't the key to freedom or love. My value wasn't measured by a number on a scale or a rent check. It was in who I was, flawed, struggling, but worthy of kindness and respect. The experience changed me. It made me stronger, more compassionate, and more determined to build a life on my own terms. I still love my mom, that hasn't changed. But I'm learning that love isn't about control or punishment. It's about acceptance, patience, and grace. And sometimes love means standing firm for yourself, even when it hurts. As I look toward the future med school applications and all the unknowns ahead, I carry this lesson with me. I am enough, and I am ready. If you found this story touching or relatable, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel for more real-life stories full of emotion and drama. Your support means the world to me and helps keep these stories coming. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Thank you for watching and being part of this journey with me.